Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very important live stream. An extremely important live stream. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'm going to give you some information pertaining to Truth Social, to social media sites in general. And you're going to want to watch most of this live stream and hear what I have to say because it's extremely important. And if you've watched the movie Tron, the 80s movie Tron, I'm going to explain how everything from Twitter to Facebook to even Truth Social is similar to a 2022 version of the movie Tron, where the actor is, or the main characters are catapulted into a video game. And so we'll talk about that. You don't want to be part of a video game unless you're very, very careful. You don't want to actually, transform yourself or enter a world where everything you say could be used against you. So the Miranda rights, you have to remember them every time you get on social media. I don't have Twitter. I don't have Facebook. And I'm going to explain how President Trump could use this to his advantage, or it could be used by Democrats to foment more outrage. Outrage over Trump is the fuel that runs the Democratic Party. They don't have any policies. All their policies, basically their policies lead to runaway inflation, trillions of dollars in stimulus that lead to runaway inflation, record highs in fossil fuels. So the antithesis of everything they claim to advocate for. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. To my super chat, I cannot thank you enough, ladies and gentlemen. Your super chat support is extremely important. You help me do and you allow me to do these live streams. So if you enjoy these live streams, your super chat is greatly appreciated. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel. We're seeing what's taking. We're heading into a recession. Could be possibly a depression in the future, but we're heading into a recession. I predicted the stock market crash that we're going to see, that we're seeing in slow motion. We will unfortunately see the 2,000 to 3,000 point drops in the Dow, the Nasdaq, S&P. Bitcoin's going to get to 10,000, unfortunately. Let's just really quickly, exclusive Trump's Truth Social app set for release Monday in Apple App Store. So let's read this. Donald Trump's new social media venture, Truth Social, appears set to launch in Apple's App Store on Monday, according to a post from an executive on a test. Okay, to Reuters, potentially marking the return of former President Donald Trump to social media on the U.S. President's Day holiday. And this is a Fox article. Trump's Truth Social to begin welcoming Americans who pre-ordered the app Monday. Truth Social will populate the new users who pre-ordered the app over the next 10 days. So, Truth Social will populate the new users who pre-ordered the app in the next 10 days. In the last week, Truth Social has welcomed a number of prominent users, including influencers, politicians, and celebrities, as well as Americans who were first in line to pre-order the app through the Apple App Store. So far, the app's prominent users include Fox News' Sean Hannity, Dan Bongino, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, rapper Kodak Black, country music singer Travis Tritt, and more. So let's talk about the pros and cons, and let's talk about the potential pitfalls of this social media app. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to ask yourself, okay, what are some of the, of course, there's, if you get kicked off for some reason, ladies and gentlemen, just log back on. I have no clue why. Sometimes the stream just kicks people off, but definitely log back on if you're kicked off. But if you type in Trump tweet outrage, okay? You type in Trump tweet outrage on Google. I don't think people understand, like, the nature of the left's obsession, the Democratic Party's obsession, their singular focus on Trump's personality. I don't think people understand that. I don't think people understand that. My God, what is wrong with this? Has nothing to do with my. This is, for some reason, I have no clue, but maybe it's OBS or something's going. Luke and Eric, thank you so very much for being amazing moderators. I have no clue what happens. I swear, I have no clue. Just hit refresh and you will get back. Hit refresh. If you get kicked off at any point, hit refresh and you'll get back on. Eric and Luke, thank you so very much. So, I don't think people truly understand. I really don't think people truly understand the obsession that people have, like the absolute obsession people have pertaining to Trump's social media presence. Donald Trump, and we'll start with the pitfalls. I mean, if he doesn't utilize this platform simply to troll the Democratic Party or the left, or, consistently push the envelope to cause outrage, then it'll be very good for President Trump. There's definitely an opportunity for any social media platform to replace Twitter, which is a dystopian nightmare, which is a cyber dystopian nightmare. Okay, so there are a number of platforms that could possibly replace Twitter. That's not going to be difficult to do because Twitter is just absolutely terrible. But he has to watch out. And we're going to explain. I'm going to talk about why. I'm trying to do something here to make sure that the stream is running. We're going to talk about what President Trump has to worry about. Okay? Now, just type in on Google. You can type in Trump tweet outrage, or you can type in anything to do with Trump and Twitter. And it's not like Democrats are excited about infrastructure. It's not like that they're that excited about Green New Deal policies. They're really not. They talk about climate change and how, they want to save the planet, but they're not really excited or passionate or energized. Biden's foreign policy is a catastrophe. Ukraine is about to be invaded by Russia, and that didn't happen under Trump's administration. Of course, it did happen under President Obama's administration. It did happen under Bush's administration. Funny how it never happened under Trump's administration. So what does the Kremlin have on mashed potato brains? But go ahead and look at the articles. I mean, just Trump tweet and outrage. Okay, Trump's tweets infamous, offensive, and bizarre posts. The Guardian, Trump deletes tweet of supporter shouting. It's like, not really. That was a satirical, sarcastic remark by an old person. But of course, it's spun as, support of you-know-what. Okay, Juicy Smollett had to absolutely fabricate a crime because apparently he couldn't find There are so few horrible Trump supporters out there. Juicy Smollett couldn't find actual Trump supporters to, to do whatever he paid others to try to fabricate. So, but anyway, so you have Twitter. Twitter has provoked outrage, but Trump is okay. Donald Trump tweets, "Don't be afraid." Trump's Twitter year of outrage and braggadocio. I mean, it's endless. You can look at the endless. You could look at the endless articles written. I mean, we can do two hours of this just reading articles. 100 days without Trump on Twitter. A nation. I mean, this is hilarious. A nation scrolls more calmly. Are you kidding me? A nation scrolls more calmly. The fact that this nation is scrolling at all is a complete catastrophe. A nation scrolls. The New York Times. Yes, because mashed potato brains Biden has brought, serenity to Twitter. The complete list of Trump's Twitter insults. I mean, the complete list of Trump's Twitter insults. And these are the people who set up and framed Trump, spied on him, accused him of everything under the sun, from his tax returns to being installed by the Kremlin. Only lies. Like, it's interesting, you have very intelligent people who are like, oh yeah, Trump lies so much. Well, nobody has lied more than media. And nobody has lied more than people who've accused Trump of things he never did. And Trump tweets from White House after Biden named, okay, so outrage over Trump's tweet on looting. So this is hilarious. There's outrage over Trump's tweet on looting, and simultaneously Trump is banned because of so NPR. This is interesting. This is basically everything you need to know about American politics. In 2020, outrage over Trump's tweet on looting and mayhem. And then 2021, Trump permanently suspended from Twitter, citing risk of further, what is it? Citing risk of further incitement. When he's condemning chaos and mayhem perpetuated by demonstrators on the left, then there's outrage over that. He's then, a year later, suspended for furthering chaos and mayhem from demonstrators on the right. I mean, a Google search, Google search will show you how duplicitous and disingenuous the journalists are. How disingenuous and duplicitous media and journalists and Democrats and the political establishment are. How can Trump elicit outrage from condemning chaos and mayhem from demonstrators who caused $1 billion to $2 billion in property damage, even if it was for a good cause? Even if the cause was, to end brutality and, police brutality, and it was for a good cause, how could you then say, oh, well, he's condemning chaos and mayhem in 2020, but he's going to further the risk of chaos and mayhem in 2021 from conservative demonstrators. So $1 to $2 billion in property damage, with Kamala Harris bailing out protesters who've been arrested, and 25 lives lost, according to Wikipedia. That is, I mean, you could see his tweets then elicited outrage because he was condemning demonstrators. But then he wasn't condemning the demonstrators Democrats were opposed to enough, and he was inciting them. So there you go. So the man can't win on Twitter. Okay, he can't win on Twitter. The man cannot win on Twitter. And the point is, ladies and gentlemen, he has to be careful. That's the point. The point is he has to be careful. He has to be careful because if he's not careful, he's going to give Democrats, media, his political rivals, or the opposing political party. Chris, thank you. Everybody here, thank you. He's going to give his the opposing political party everything they need to rebound. I mean, you don't want to give Democrats you don't want to give Democrats momentum before the midterms. They have no momentum now. They have zero momentum. I mean, that's just one example. So they don't derive momentum from their policies because they don't have it. Democrats say they have policy. They have no policies at all. Infrastructure is nothing to do with any Democratic policy up until Build Back Better. And then you have all of these social programs that most people aren't like. Nobody has said, hey, we're not getting paid for a certain leave of absence from work, and that's why the economy isn't working well. Nobody says, infrastructure is the problem with the economy. Nobody has ever said that. Of course, you have to, fix roads and bridges, but generally that was states did that. But you have Vox Donald Trump as the accelerant. Everything is predicated upon the sensibilities of morally superior liberals. The accelerant. He encourages groups and violence and contempt and a comprehensive history of Donald Trump encouraging. Donald Trump never encouraged anyone. If people were bad, if people had character issues and they utilized Trump to further their own, horrible view of the world, that's terrible. But that's not Trump's fault. Here and there, he pushed the envelope, and I agree with that. But what Democrats have done and what media have done is they've said that because he's on social media or because he was on Twitter, his words influenced people. Donald Trump's words influenced people. But the words of Democrats saying, get in people's faces. There are numerous Democrats who've said worse. And apparently they didn't influence $1 to $2 billion in property damage. And by the way, the property damage was completely ignored. And how many people of color lost money in terms of businesses that they own? How many business owners, minority business owners, businesses owned by people of color, how many businesses were burnt to the ground, torched by well-meaning demonstrators? And then all you heard is, it's just infrastructure. It's just property damage. It's like, well, it's not your property. If it was your property, you certainly wouldn't want that destroyed. Donald Trump didn't. I mean, how many billions of dollars in property damage from January? And so you have Kamala Harris bailing out demonstrators, but you have Trump inciting all of these horrible things. I mean, the double standard is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And now you have crime soaring in Democratic-run cities. But see, again, I'm trying to explain something I don't think people find very interesting, but it's very important. If you've lasted this long, it's very important. You don't want President Trump to give them the momentum that they don't have. Okay, let's just really quickly, I'm going to try to give you here, let's just let's look at the framework here of Build Back Better. Okay, these are all noble policies, but they're not anything that Democrats cared about ever until recently, until they were told to care. Universal and free preschool for all 3 and 4-year-olds. The largest expansion of universal and free education since states. Okay, very noble. Nobody ever asked for that. You could say, well, yes, they did. The past 5 years, Democrats, progressives, media, or I should say the left, was focused on packing the courts, Green New Deal legislation, Medicare for all, single-payer health care. They were not talking about universal and free preschool. That's why Democrats have to focus on Trump's tweets. Do you see what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? That's my point. That's the point I should have started off with. 21 minutes ago, I should have just started off with this. The Sentinel, I won't. I'm not on social media aside from, aside from people consider YouTube social media, but I don't really consider it social media. But I'm not going to be on anything like any message board based platform, Twitter, Facebook, Truth Social, anything, Getter, anything. Making the largest investment in childcare in the nation's history, saving most American families more than half of their spending on childcare. Well, okay, but that's very noble. But that's not something that in the past 5, 6, 7 years people have said, gosh, our economy is being held back because of that. Delivers affordable and high-quality care for older Americans and people with disabilities while supporting workers. That's also important, but there are other laws and legislation covering that. Provides 39 million households up to $3,600 per month in tax cuts per child. That's great. But Trump also, the thing is, when Trump when Trump cut taxes, all they talked about was the deficit, which is now far greater than at any point in Trump's administration. So that's great. I think Republicans or conservatives or Trump supporters wanted to cut taxes. So that's good, but you don't need to Build Back Better for that. Then it's the largest effort to combat climate change in American history. Why would you do that immediately after you ended economic activity? That's my point. We have inflation at all-time highs. We have fossil fuels at all-time highs. It is a fact that oil is approaching $100 per barrel. And that gas prices, are well over $5 in some areas, could approach $7 a gallon. Why would you do? No one was asking for this. The left wanted Green New Deal legislation, and they're not going to be appeased or happy by the largest effort. You have appeased nobody. And nobody within the Democratic Party, whether it was Onward Together or in the past 3 years before 2020, nobody was focused on any of this stuff. So that's why they derive momentum, political momentum. That's why they derive political momentum from Trump's tweets. That's my point. And there's always a danger to social media. There is. You're talking about a social credit score that a lot of people in government would love to implement. You're talking about a time, very likely, you see it in Canada already. You see it in China. You see it in other locations where your Truth Social or your Gab or your Twitter posts, if they're conservative, depending on, because a lot of things are missing context in a Twitter post or in any social media post, that could be used against you. And Lord knows how it can be used against you. They're freezing in certain locations of the world bank accounts now. So they're freezing bank accounts right now. So you have to be careful. I'm telling you, people, you have to be careful. This is what I'm trying to. If you look at, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at, if you look at, Build Back Better, none of this galvanizes Democrats. They don't care about climate change, really. They care about pontificating. They don't care about focusing on technology that would allow them to decarbonize. They just want to decarbonize, and eventually the technology will follow. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. That's why you have record highs in fossil fuels, because you're pushing something that is not feasible at the moment. You want this idealistic effort to address climate change when you have absolutely no influence on China or India or other countries that are building their economies, and economic growth to them is far more important than combating climate change. You're not going to even John Kerry said if we decarbonized completely, we still wouldn't make a dent in terms of climate change. You can just okay, so Kerry. Here, John Kerry said it himself. Kerry admits zero emissions in U.S. wouldn't make a difference in climate change. He admits that himself. So what are you doing with like you're talking about Build Back Better? Their main thing is childcare and climate change, and most Americans just want a functioning economy. Most Americans want uh, Biden to address inflation. You're losing it. Inflation is a tax upon the poor. So you've taxed the poor. You caused the poverty by ending economic activity. And then you've taxed the poor with inflation because you ended the economic activity 2 years ago. And then you're still obsessed over you know what. So then the most significant effort to bring down costs and strengthen the middle class and generations, that's of course hyperbole. And it's your opinion. There's no fact here. There's no. The most significant effort makes the largest and most comprehensive investment in affordable housing in history. Yeah, but if inflation is through the roof, then people who want that affordable housing are paying a tax on food, energy, rent. Rent has gone up 40%. So in many areas of the country. So what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want, if you're President Trump, you don't want to give Democrats political momentum. You don't want to give Democrats political momentum when they lack political momentum. So you could just keep looking. Twitter shifts policy on blocking links after outrage. Uh, but then it's fake GOP outrage as Kamala Harris tells Americans to enjoy a long weekend for Memorial. But the thing is, she is saying enjoy long weekend and not Memorial Day for a reason. So I mean, you're speaking to Democrats are they acknowledge that the far left does not even like the United States flag or the history of the United States or the founding fathers or anything like that. So, anyway, Eric Trump's tweet stokes outrage. This is endless. I know that nobody finds this interesting. And I'll do a Durham Probe special counsel segment tonight. But this is something that I've been trying to tell people for a long time, and I understand that nobody finds it very interesting. I get that. I get that nobody finds it interesting. But you have to understand, do not, if you're President Trump on Truth Social, do not give Democrats the fuel to for political momentum. So here, I mean, why Twitter labeling Trump's tweets as potentially misleading is a big step forward. Of course, they're never going to label Adam Schiff's tweets as potentially misleading or BuzzFeed's tweets as potentially misleading with the Steele dossier. Nothing is misleading if you've misled in the right direction. If you've misled from left to right, you're never going to be viewed as misleading. If you mislead from right to left, oh my God. So Twitter will always be remembered as a cyber extension of the Democratic Party. So yeah, if you just type in Trump tweet outrage, my point is you're going to get endless articles fueling indignation, outrage, emotion from the Democratic Party. And that's bad because they don't get energized from Build Back Better. None of this, even though it's noble and it is something that, there are a lot of things in Build Back Better that address serious issues. Nobody is energized by it. Nobody really cares about it. It is just a kind of bucket list of a lot of Democratic policies that they just said, hey, well, we have the House and Senate and the executive. Let's try to put um, this wish list together and market it as Build Back Better. And every time I hear that, I think of Baby Got Back, Sir Mix-a-Lot. That's all I think of. Every single time I hear Build Back Better, in my mind, it translates it into Baby Got Back, and that's the only thing I think of. I don't know what Build Back Better means. I don't even know what the phrase means. We're going to build back. That is, Make America Great Again is a million times better than Build Back Better. Which, by the way, is a phrase that other liberal parties use also around the world. So that makes no sense. By the way, I will have a live stream in about, let's say, like 9:30 tonight. So, I mean, the top three, the whole thing is filled with Build Back Better. The whole thing is filled with these ambitious, idealistic. Um, so here, this is. He's working. Okay, let's look here. Once his Linda begins receiving child, wow. The government helps cover costs in his daycare. Wow. Wow, this is amazing. The earliest high school. But they don't tell you that because of this, inflation is through the roof. And they don't tell you that, not only is inflation through the roof, but this does nothing to attract businesses in the area that Leo and his mom live. This does nothing to help unemployment. In fact, the Build Back Better was actually looked at, and it would decrease the economy. So if you look, Build back better economic analysis. Decrease GDP. Latest Build Back Better plan won't improve the economy. Forbes. Inflation concerns. And then, of course, PBS. Why Build Back Better wouldn't drive inflation. Yes, it would. Of course it would. And hold on, Build Back Better and the National Association of Manufacturers. National Association of Manufacturers will hit manufacturing hard. So the National Association of Manufacturers was against Build Back Better. And then the Business Roundtable was against Build Back Better also. Initially, they said 1 million jobs would be lost. Consequences of higher corporate tax rate, 1 million jobs lost in 2 years. So 2.1 million manufacturing jobs go unfulfilled by 2030. So if you look, that's my point. Like, my point is, you're not doing anyone any good if, let's see. Let's see. Build Back Better will increase inflation. Of course it will. Michigan University, Leahy. So you can look, and you can look right here. You can look right here. And this professor, as a debate over the impact of President Joe Biden's Build Back Better bill continues, John Leahy, professor of public policy and economics, discussed the economics of the bill. Quote, inflation is the result of too much demand chasing too little supply. He said, anyone arguing that the bill is inflationary can point to any standard economic textbook. An increase in government spending should increase demand and therefore increase inflation. This will happen even if the spending is fully paid for through taxes, which of course it's not, since the government spending increases demand for one, and taxes reduce demand only to the extent that firms or consumers reduce their spending as a result, and this reduction is typically less than 1-for-1. So, of course, it was going to increase inflation. You're not doing anything. Democrats love to say, well, here, we're helping you. They don't tell you how they're hurting you at the same time. So, and then, of course, the 56 top economists, and then the economists who disagree or you never hear from. And the economists that agree are liberal Democrats first and economists second. And they can't point to any government legislation that reduced inflation. And so that's what my point is. Here, this is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Inflation is the highest in 31 years, and Build Back Better bill will make it worse. So you have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, a whole bunch of economists throughout the country. And that's my point. That's my point. That is my point, ladies and gentlemen. My point is, ladies and gentlemen, is the following. If you go ahead and you give people, if you give Democrats the ability, to to garner political momentum, or gather political momentum, or create outrage, fabricate outrage and indignation, that's the fuel that they use. That's the fuel they use. And so, I mean, that's the issue. If that's the whole thing. I mean, it's not going to be, if he decides to do, like, if people get on Truth Social and it's only like Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about the gazpacho police, that's not going to help anyone. Do you understand? That's not going to help anyone. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. I will be back at around 9:30 p.m. with a live stream on the Durham Probe. I understand that not many people are interested in my take on this, but it's the truth. You can't expect, like, if Truth Social is used by President Trump and by Trump supporters and by conservatives to galvanize voters for President Trump and spread awareness or information about corruption within the Democratic Party, or policies that Republicans will implement when they're in the House and Senate, those things are good. But if it's used only to inflame the left, or give them, if it's used only to inflame or give them like this political momentum, it'll be counterproductive. Anyway, you might enjoy the live stream tonight at around 9:30 pertaining to the Durham Probe a lot better. So be here tonight at 9 or 9:30. Lined up, pony soldier, my man. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Yeah, be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Be here tonight at around 9:30 p.m. Pacific, for the Durham Probe live stream. Thanks so much, everybody. We will have Lion, Dogface, Pony Soldier. Thank you so much. So be here tonight, 9:30. Thank you, Anthony. Be here tonight, 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Durham Probe Special Counsel live stream. I'll see you soon, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.